Hello, and here we are on week 3, the last week for marketing. This summer is flying by. Okay, so let's go into the chapter 3 PowerPoints and see what's there. There we are. That's not it. That's it. Okay, so exploratory, descriptive, and casual research designs. Okay, so poll question. Focus groups are sufficient research tools for most decision problems. Okay, it, whenever anything says most, all, anything like that, an alarm bell should go off, and it's probably in this area. It all depends of whether they are or not. Fast fact: 5%, only 5% of U.S. adults report doing a vigorous activity on any given day, compared to 80% who report watching TV on any given day. It'd be really interesting to do the same research during the shelter in place that's been going on and see what the numbers are now. You could have a hypothesis going either direction as to whether this is higher or this is higher. All depend, and it would be interesting to see if there's a difference from one state or one part of the state to another, depending on how big of a area you want to cover for your research. Okay, so let's start. Learning objectives for this chapter. Major emphasis of each of the 3 basic types of research design. Key characteristics and basic uses of exploratory research. Various types of exploratory research and describe each. Difference between cross-sectional and longitudinal descriptive research design. Difference between a continuous panel and a discontinuous panel. Clarify the difference between laboratory experiments and field experiments. And distinguish among the standard distinguish among a standard test market, a controlled test market, and a simulated test market. Okay. So, types of research design. Exploratory discovers ideas and insights. Descriptive, describing a population with respect to important variables. And casual, used to establish cause and effect relationships between variables. Okay. So exploratory research, search for clues at a crime scene to establish what happened. Descriptive, interview witnesses and suspects. And casual, determine whether evidence is sufficient to convict a suspect of a crime. Okay, so descriptive to casual to exploratory. They can go in any direction, but this is goes from exploratory over to descriptive and then down to casual is what they're saying, but they all are interconnected. So, exploratory research, you do literature search of popular press, trade, and academic literature, or published statistics from research firms or governmental agencies. This is what's going to give you a foundation to go on. There's no point in researching what's already been done if they've already conducted it and you can just read about it. Much faster to read about it than actually do the research. Now, if the research is outdated, or if it's in a different part of the country, or even a different county, you might want to duplicate it in the area that you're looking at and then compare the two to see if there's any differences. Depth interviews. Interviews with people knowledgeable about the general subject being investigated. Focus groups. Small group interviews relying on group discussion, and then case analysis. Intense study of selected examples of the phenomenon. Okay. There we go. So exploratory research. Special note on focus groups. Focus groups have 2 major pitfalls. It is easy for managers to see what they expect to see in a focus group because you can just pick out what you like and ignore what you don't. Focus groups are one form of exploratory research. it or any other type of exploratory research should not be expected to deliver final results or answers to decision problems. Yet many managers seem to use them for that purpose because they're easy and quick. Descriptive research used to describe characteristics of certain groups, determine the proportion of people who behave in a certain way, make specific predictions, and determine relationships between variables. Okay. Key questions descriptive research should attempt to answer is who, what, where, when, why, and how. The typical ones you heard in English in elementary school. So before attempting to ask any questions, know what you're going to do with the subsequent answers via dummy tables. So you create this, and this is what you're trying to fill in. This is why you're asking the questions. Okay. So descriptive research, you start with a study, then go longitudinal or cross-sectional, and then go to continuous panel, discontinuous panel, or a sample survey. And then descriptive longitudinal analysis, repeated measures over time or a fixed sample. Two primary types, continuous panel, fixed sample of respondents who are measured repeatedly over time with respect to the same variables. Okay. Discontinuous panel, fixed sample respondents who are measured repeated over time with respect to different variables. Okay, so you're saying how do they respond with these variables versus a month from now, how do they respond with different variables? Okay, if you're doing any type of study involving the shelter in place, the COVID-19, you would try to figure out the latest study that had been done prior to February, and then do one now and see the difference. Cross-sectional, single point in time measures a sample selected from a population. So what's going on right now, that's all we care about. We don't care about before, we don't care about tomorrow, we just want to know right now what's going on. Okay. Causal research, condition X causes event Y, cause and effect. Right? If you haven't eaten in the past 24 hours, you're probably hungry. So you make something to eat. So the condition of being hungry creates the event of making something to eat. Experiments are often used to isolate relationships between independent, condition X, and dependent, event Y, variables. Okay, if I wasn't hungry, condition X, then I wouldn't be making something to eat, event Y. The basic point of experiments is to change the level of one or more X variables and examining the resulting impact on Y variables. Experimental causal research, laboratory experiments. Laboratories are great because you can control everything in the environment and just change one thing and see if that one thing makes a difference. Okay, so control variable other than X and Y is maximized and X variables are manipulated. Okay, so lighting, what's the best lighting for reading? If I can control sound and everything else, I can have lighting at a certain level for 10 minutes, then increase or decrease it for 10 minutes and keep doing that until I have enough information as to how fast you read based on the lighting, so I can figure out what the optimum lighting is for reading, at least for that person who's in the experiment. Field experiments include situations with fluid conditions, like retail stores. Control of variables other than X and Y is challenging. So if you go to the store to just buy 3 things and you walk out with 10 things, why is that? Did you see them and forget to put them on your list? Did you see other people with them? Did you smell the chicken? And so you bought a rotisserie chicken because you were hungry and you smelled it, and so that triggered your mind to say, hey, you should buy that because you're hungry. No idea, because we can't control the other variables. Experiments as casual research, market testing, involves the use of controlled experiment done in a limited but carefully selected section of the marketplace. McDonald's used test markets to determine that a market exists for its own higher end coffee drinks before beginning large scale distribution, because it's a lot cheaper to do it on small test markets and figure out that it's not successful than to do it nationwide or globally and then figure out it's not successful and you just lost 10, 20, 100 times the money as opposed to the test market. And then you have the model here, the definition, the example of standard tests, controlled tests, and simulated tests. And then experiments as casual research, the speed, of course, down here is most favorable versus least favorable, number one being most, number three being least. So standard test market is a 3 because it isn't instantaneous, it takes a long time. Controlled market is a little bit faster. Simulated test market is really fast because you have it all simulated, so you can do it whenever you want. And then the costs are more expensive here, less expensive here. But it's down here, external validity and prediction accuracy, much greater. So if you have the money and the time to do all this, your results are going to be much better. If you don't, then that's when you resort to one of these two. And that's the end of marketing. We won't be doing marketing anymore. We're moving on to accounting. I want to remind you that if you look into week 3 on the syllabus, you'll see that a test is coming up. I do not have the test open yet because it's not available yet. But when the test becomes available, it'll be posted here. And I'll also send out an email saying that it's posted. And it'll also be on the announcements. Um, announcements so that you'll be able to see that the exam is available at that point. Here's some other things on the announcements that I thought you might find interesting throughout the semester as far as the 4 topics that we're talking about. So if you are interested, they're here for you. If not, that's okay as well, but it's just some extra bonuses. Hope you all are having a great day and good luck on your test.